If you want to get something done, you can either try harder or make the task smaller. These two choices will provide you with infinite options, but if you want to be a productive person, you first need to know that if you want to pick up a rock, you can either get strong enough to pick up the rock, or you can pick up a smaller rock. That's it. In the gym, if you're struggling with a big bar of weights, this is obvious. When it's a little bit heavier than you can handle, there are two reasonable options. You can push harder, or you can take weights off to make it easier. And when it's way past what you can handle, you can try harder all you want and injure yourself, but the wise thing to do is reduce the weight. At other times, the right thing to do is push yourself past what feels comfortable and try harder so that you can grow. This is a basic thing you do when you're at the gym working out. But when you're building a business, working through a disagreement in a relationship, or conquering a personal fear, this same idea still applies. It's just harder to see this basic truth. There is a level at which you can accomplish something, and a level at which you can't. And if you want to make progress, you need to either become more capable, or make the thing you're trying to do more doable. If you understand this, you can use this idea when you're stuck. For example, most of us have a list of things we'd like to accomplish in a day. We make that list too long to actually finish, then feel bad about it, and are less productive the next day. I call these impossible to-do lists. Most of us make impossible to-do lists for ourselves because it's easier to put something on a list than to take it off. To put something on a to-do list, you just need to write it down. To take something off of a to-do list, you have to complete the task and then cross it off. One takes seconds. The other could take hours. So because lists are so easy to write, we write to-do lists for ourselves that are overwhelming and impossible. But if you understand that accomplishment comes from becoming strong enough to do a task or making the task small enough that you can do it, this idea can help you decide what to do with your list when you look at it and realize you've created an impossible day for yourself. You can decide you're going to have a high effort day and push yourself to extremes to get everything done. Or you can choose to erase things from your to-do list until your assignments for the day are realistic. Or find a way to make the tasks easier, which is another version of making your workload smaller. You have to do one or the other if you want to build the habit of success and not feel sad at the end of the day because you feel like a failure for not getting everything done. And just like with a to-do list, if you decide to start a business, you need to pick tasks for yourself and realistically assess how much effort they will require. If you pick a task that feels impossible, you need to try harder or do something easier. And when you're working through a disagreement in a relationship, the same thing happens. You have to realize there is a limit to how much anyone can take in a given moment. So if you're working together to have an open and truthful relationship, where you share what's on your mind and work through things, you can't just share everything on your mind and expect the other person to be able to handle it. You have to observe what the other person can process and give them a realistic amount of hard conversation to deal with. Don't push past the impossible. And then, when they're struggling, either encourage them to step up and handle the conversation by showing them you believe in their capacity to handle the challenge, or break the conversation into smaller pieces and make it manageable for them. And when the person you're with is sharing things that are difficult for you to handle, you have to communicate that you can handle a certain amount. You have to set boundaries. Then you have to decide if you're going to concentrate more energy on handling a discussion, or if you need to process a smaller amount of it that day in order to have a healthy conversation and deal with the rest later. In a relationship, you need to have the argument you can resolve, not the one you can't. When conquering fears, it works the same way. If you're trying to push past your fears and face something you've never faced before, you need to understand there is a point at which you will have gone too far. Let's say you're afraid of snakes and want to break through that fear. There is zero utility in trying to conquer your fear of snakes by walking into a room of 20 freely slithering poisonous serpents and having a panic attack while getting bitten. That's too much. That would be the equivalent of lifting a weight that's just too big. The panic attack would ingrain and increase your fear of snakes and make it more likely for you to avoid them in the future. Also, you might just not have a future if you use this method. But it might be possible for you to walk into a room with one snake being held safely on the other side of the room. It will still feel difficult, so you can either try harder, push yourself to walk into the room and feel a bit panicky and then make it through, or you can have someone put the snake in a cage to make it a bit less frightening. You still have to address the fear in order to deal with it, but you can do it by putting in more effort or shrinking the fear until it's at a dosage you feel you can handle. What generally matters in life is taking actions that get results, no matter how small the actions or results are. Because if you are taking action and getting results regularly, eventually you will become capable of taking more and bigger actions and getting bigger results. So you must not choose an impossible goal, because it will either make you take no action or get no result. But once the task is within the realm of possibility, you can either push yourself harder or make it easier in order to get yourself to start moving. You'll find that different schools of thought encourage different ways of approaching this. Most self-development coaches will encourage you to push harder, while most cognitive behavioral therapists will encourage you to break it down into smaller pieces. But these are the only two options that exist. You might at this point be thinking of the analogy of going over, through, or around the rock, which is an analogy that encourages creative thinking when accomplishing tasks. Meaning, what if you do the task differently? What if you delegate or change the job so that it requires a smaller input in order to get a bigger output? You might think these are different, but they're actually all versions of making the task smaller. These are great things, and you should do them. You're achieving the desired solution with less effort. Or you might be thinking about visualization, manifestation, commitment, or discipline. Those are all great methods too. They're all versions of making yourself more strong and capable. You're tapping into a deeper source of effort in order to get more done. You can make the self bigger, or you can make the task smaller. That's it. Even when it seems like it's an easy task. Maybe it's a simple tax form you've been procrastinating on for months. You're obviously more capable than a simple tax form, and it shouldn't be able to defeat you. But here you are, 6 months later, with no form complete and a lot of extra stress. Somewhere inside your mind, that task was too much for you to handle. Likely, you had to deal with a lot of other things to do, and the tax form itself wasn't too much. But all of the other things combined with that form were more than you could handle, so you didn't get it done. Also, it doesn't matter if you spent the last 6 months on the couch playing video games and eating junk food, or if you spent it scaling a billion-dollar company. Your reality is your reality. So if it doesn't seem possible, then you're right. And if you're operating at a high-performance level and something is past your limit, even if you think you can do it, you aren't going to be able to do it no matter how hard you try. And yes, you'll need to do some experimentation to figure out what your perception is and what reality is. There will be times when you can do more than you realize and times when you can't do as much as you thought. But ultimately, the simple framework of making the task smaller or making yourself bigger will help you get stuff done. When you look at a job that needs to be done, you need to ask yourself if it's something that you want to push harder on or if it's something you want to shift so that it becomes more manageable. If it's a moment in your life when you need to step up and make yourself bigger, then set your alarm and wake up and brush your teeth early. Take care of yourself and push hard. Make commitments, set schedules, go all in, and understand that this is a moment for you to step up. Visualize the outcome you want to achieve and push yourself past where you would normally go. And if this is a moment where you think it's time to make the task smaller, ask yourself how you could break it down into smaller steps. Think about delegating the job or doing a creative workaround that allows you to do half the work with double the result. You will need both of these methods in your life, but if you understand them, you can choose when to use which method. Understanding your options gives you the power to choose. When you have the power to make choices, you can make them faster and learn more every time you make them. And when you learn a little bit more every day, eventually, you become unstoppable.